Hi everybody, my name is Kylie Stretton and I'm here today to do a little presentation called Cultivating Connections, which is about building connections with your consumers, whether you're a paddock to plate operation or you just want to raise the profile of your industry, whether it be red meat, beef, sheep, pork, whatever it tickles your fancy. And I originally was going to do this presentation face-to-face with Zoom, but then things got changed around a bit, and now I'm doing a recording of it, which is a little bit different to me. I've never done it this way before, so you'll have to bear with me if I stumble a bit because it feels like a little bit awkward, like I'm a Wally talking to myself on the laptop and not face to face. I'm also one of those people who's a bit of a pacer when I'm trying to think, and when I'm trying to talk, I pace the room all the time. So I can be writing an email that's got to be a little bit heavy hitting, I suppose, and I might do 10 laps of the veranda. So you'll probably see me get up and go, oh no, I can't actually get up. I have to sit and think, which is very difficult. I think I'm prepared. I keep looking out over the top of the screen out to my dam, which is off my veranda. So you'll have to bear with me. I've turned my phones off, I've turned the two-way off, I've turned my mobile phone off, which is a little bit of a concern because just as I texted my husband who's in Townsville today to say, I'm turning my phone off, don't call me, he texted me to say that he was looking at a tractor that was $10,000 above our budget. So I can just imagine that when I finish this and turn it back on, he's bought a tractor more than 10 grand above our budget. But anywho, so I was asked to do this today because for the last 12 years, I have been involved in telling farmers stories. So it all started in 2011 with the live export suspension, where I think a lot of that happened because A, the footage we saw was horrible, but B, a lot of the general public didn't actually know a lot about the industry. We had this major disconnect between farmers and city people. And that had just grown over years, and it was nobody's fault. It was just the way that things are, the way our society's changed. So for the last 12 years, I've been working along different avenues on how to get farmers and our city cousins, or people, they don't even need to live in the city, but even in our rural towns, a lot of these people don't have that general knowledge about how we do things or why we do things. So for the past 12 years, I've been doing my own Facebook pages, including Life on Red Hill, which a lot of you might follow. And I've also been, quite vocal in a lot of different avenues about the image that farmers portray and how to share our stories and how to cultivate these meaningful connections. So a few things that we'll talk about today, and this is in no particular order, but we'll talk about the importance of meaningful connections, about negativity bias, about the circle of 10, finding your values, what's your style, who's your audience, what you can do, and who's already doing it well. And I don't think you can see that last bit because my camera's in the road. But anyway, so what we're not going to cover, I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty of technical aspects like how to start a Facebook page, how to do a TikTok, yada, 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 because that is just all too much and it's probably too hard to do like this. It needs to be one-on-one, and that is not my strong point anymore. It was 12 years ago, but social media has exploded and I have gotten old and I cannot keep up with all the different types of social media. So what you have to do is pick the one that suits you the most. So whether it's Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, whatever. My favorite social media platform is Facebook because I talk a lot. I write a lot. So TikTok doesn't take any writing, it's all videos, and as you can see, I'm not overly comfortable doing that. Instagram, you have a word limit, and that doesn't suit me at all because my posts get quite wordy. So to carry on, I've done up this little video. It's actually 2.5 years old now. I did a video similar to apply for a scholarship. And then I thought I actually really liked this video. So I changed it a little bit and edited it to just make it a bit of an introduction about what we do on Red Hill and what our values are. So while you're watching it, I want you guys to try and take note about what you can feel are my values that are coming through the video? What values am I portraying? Because this is really important for when you guys go to start sharing your stories and building your audience. So hopefully I can get this to work.
Hello, my name is Kylie Stretton and welcome to my part of the world. My husband Shane and I and our two children, Elizabeth and Clancy, who are 16 and 14, purchased Red Hill in 2018. Red Hill is 12,000 acres and we are 40 kilometres as the crow flies north of Charters Towers on the banks of the mighty Burdekin River. We run around 250 Brahman cows and their followers, depending on the season. Both Elizabeth and Clancy are interested in pursuing a career in agriculture, so we aim to give them a good grounding by involving them in the decision making or learning opportunities and by instilling a sense of responsibility and privilege to be stewards of our amazing landscape. The best way to describe Red Hill is where the coast and the desert collide. We have 7 different land types ranging from coastal to desert. We have all the types of plants and animals to go with these land types, and some of these species you don't often get to see in the same vicinity. Red Hill is truly a nature lover's paradise. Red Hill is characterised by Red Hill, a tableland mountain spanning some 1,500 acres. While it's mostly flat on top, the edges are mostly extremely steep escarpments, tens of metres high. This means that every time it rains, great sheets of water cascade over the edge, taking everything on top and causing mass erosion in the lower country. Since purchasing Red Hill, we've done a lot of work to slow the water down and improve our grazing pressure and management to allow for more landscape rehydration and ground cover. Our philosophy on Red Hill is to go beyond what's considered sustainable. We don't want to keep things the same, but we want to leave the land in a better condition than what we found it in. We feel immense joy and accomplishment watching our landscapes regenerate and flourish. Striking a workable balance between a viable business and enhancing our natural environment isn't always easy, but anything worth having ever is. I believe that you cannot influence people by alienating them. I strive not to talk badly about anyone else or their farming systems, but focus and share what we do best on Red Hill. I believe that healthy landscapes make healthy people and vibrant communities. I want to build a stronger future for all of our children, and that starts from the ground up.
So hopefully that came through and worked well for you. I was kicking myself. I did all that video up and now I've actually lost the hard copy of it, and so I had to re-download that off Facebook, which is why the image quality wasn't the greatest, and I'm just so sad now that I've lost where I saved that. But anyway, so just thinking about what our biggest challenges are in the red meat industry or in rural communities. What are our biggest challenges and frustrations, and what influence can we have over those? So I know, talking to a lot of people, some of the biggest challenges and frustrations people say we have is obviously the weather. It's drought, floods, fire, cold weather, hot weather. We can't control our prices at all. And these are all things that are outside our influence. But I often feel that the things that we can have influence over are things like policy, about government policy. And if we had better government policy and if we had better infrastructure, we would actually be able to deal with those big challenges and frustrations, such as weather swings, a lot easier than what we can now. But to get better government policy, we need to influence the voters. And if the voters have trust in farmers, and if voters want to support farmers, then they will support the politicians who want to support us a little bit better as well. And this is something that we can change. We can influence what people's perceptions are of farmers and how they feel about us. So I'm just referring to my notes down here. MLA, so Meat and Livestock Australia, have recently conducted consumer research of over 1,500 Australians that live in metropolitan areas. And they've surveyed them about how they feel about the red meat industry and how that influences their buying habits. So this is what they found. 29%, so almost 1 in 3 people, think they have knowledge of the industry. But then if you actually read a lot of stuff in the media and on social media, you do wonder what that knowledge is. But here's the really good one. 48%, or 1 in 2, people want to learn more about our industry. And this is where we come in. So we know that when it comes to advertising and talking about the industry, that farmers are actually quite trusted in our community. People want to talk to us. They want to learn about us. They don't want to learn about it from industry bodies such as AgForce or MLA or National Farmers Federation, but they want to actually hear these grassroots stories, and that comes from us. So this is what people want to know about us. So people are most interested in learning about how farmers ensure the humane treatment of animals and look after the environment. Now, I don't know about you guys who are living the farming life day in, day out, but this is the work that I do every day. Everything that we do is underpinned by how we want to treat our animals well and how we want to look after the environment. So really, the content of sharing our stories, it might seem like the most basic info to us, but to someone else, it's actually quite interesting. And it's really quite interesting to other farmers as well, because we all live in different climates, we all have different terrain, we have different breeds of animals. So everything that we do is a little bit different as well. So we can actually gather a lot of information and get new ideas from each other as well by sharing our stories on different social media sites. So we do know there's been a bit of a downturn lately in why people are eating less red meat, and the statistics coming from MLA about this were quite interesting. So cost is actually the primary driver. So over 57%, so over half of people are saying that it's actually just a little bit too expensive. And we can see that from our end because we know the last couple of years that prices, our farm gate prices, have gone up quite a bit and we've all been quite excited. But we need to remember that this does have a flow-on effect. But if you look at this last 3, which is almost makes half as well, people eat less because of environmental concerns, health concerns, and animal welfare concerns. So by sharing our stories and putting people's minds at rest about these things, about the good things we do for the environment, about how we really take into consideration how the standard of the the quality of the meat that we produce. So when we can talk about withholding periods and why we use certain pesticides or why we don't use certain pesticides on our cattle, such as backliners and all that. If we actually talk about these things a little bit more, people will look at, well, yes, it's expensive, but it's probably worth that expense. We're actually buying really good quality food. And we can actually gather and garner a whole heap more consumption of our product by allaying the concerns of others that are concerned about the environment, health, and animal welfare. So a part of this research with MLA was the higher trust is equal to higher consumption. So you can see here that it's quite simple. The more that they trust in them, I trust them a great deal, the more that people actually eat. So it's not, so the more that we get people involved and get them, I suppose, engaged in what we do, the more comfortable they're going to feel about buying our products. So one of the biggest challenges we have about sharing the good things is the negativity bias. So I'm going to share this little video. This is Johann Hari, who wrote a book called Stolen Focus, which is about the impact that social media is having on our society and how it grips you and it gets you in. And the thing that really interested me when I read this book was the negative bias and why people get so caught up in it. And I just thought it really fit in well with what I was going to talk about it today. So I'll just show you this little video I found about it.
The business model is to keep people scrolling, right? The minute you stop scrolling, they lose money. All their algorithms are designed with literally one goal: what will keep you scrolling? That's it. That's the goal, right? So as the algorithms and the AI were figuring out what keeps people scrolling, they uncovered a human quirk, which is not the intention of anyone at Facebook or YouTube or any of these places, it's a very well documented psychological phenomenon called negativity bias, which basically means we will stare at something negative longer than we will stare at something positive. Anyone who's ever been driving down the motorway and passed a car crash knows exactly what I'm talking about. You stare at the car crash longer than you stare at the pretty flowers on the other side of the road, right? And this is negativity bias goes very deep. 10-week-old babies will stare longer at an angry face than a smiling face. But when this meets algorithms designed to maximize the harvesting of attention, this produces a catastrophic effect. And this is not my view, this is what Facebook itself found in its own internal research, which we've now had leaked. So imagine this at both at a personal level and a political level. So imagine a group of teenagers go to a party. One of them goes home, and on the bus on the way home, they say, "That was a really lovely party. I enjoyed it. Everyone looked great and they were so nice." Another teenager from the same party posts, "God, Karen looked like a right slag tonight. Her boyfriend Jim is a twat." What does the algorithm do? The second one is more like the car crash. People will stare at it longer. The algorithm will promote it in the feed. It will put it much higher. The nice one, that's going to be way down if anyone sees it, right? Now, that's disastrous enough at the level of teenagers who've gone to a party. Now imagine it at a political level. We don't have to imagine it. Everyone listening remembers who Donald Trump was. So what happened in the 2016 election, what's happening all over the world every day, all the time on politics, is we are being stoked to be more angry. All the time. The algorithms select for anger because anger will keep you scrolling, right? And that is destroying our ability to solve problems. And this is not just my view. In the wake of the victory of Brexit and Donald Trump, Facebook internally set up a group of its own data scientists called Common Ground. And we now know what they found because it was leaked. And what their own data scientists said is the Facebook model and the wider business model of social media inevitably causes division and polarization. And the only alternative was for Facebook to abandon its business model and adopt what they called an anti-growth model, where they said, we won't grow as a company, but we won't set the world on fire, right? And there was a very dry, the Wall Street Journal, who got leaked it, they said, their news story said, after he received this report, Mark Zuckerberg asked that he never be brought any reports like this ever again, right? So, they know what they're doing. The business model, they're tied to their business model. They're only going to stop doing it when we make them. But this machinery that is amping us up into anger is just at a personal. Firstly, it destroys attention. When you're angry, it's much harder to pay attention. We've all had that experience, but there's good science for it as well. But also, it's devastating for the society, and we've got to deal with that.
So I'm sure when you were watching that, you were probably having a lot of aha moments and nodding your head and thinking, yes, you can absolutely see the negativity bias happening on Facebook and social media and in the normal media and just in society in general all the time. And it's this big machine that is beyond any individual. But if we are conscious of this negativity bias, we can actually do something about it ourselves, and we can be careful not to buy into it every single day. We can actually walk away from it and go, I'm not going to get caught up in the negativity today. I'm going to do something positive. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the circle of 10. Now, this is something that I've always worked on for the past 12 years, is the circle of 10. And I actually went to go and I Googled it to try and get the science behind it and the meaning behind it. And I couldn't actually find anything, so I'm not quite sure where I've got this from. Maybe I'm talking out of my bum, but it makes sense to me, and I hope it makes sense to you guys. So I'm just going to read from some notes here. Not something I do very often, but I did write something about the circle of 10 quite some time ago, and I thought it actually captures it really well. So I'm going to read from it today. Have you ever heard of the circle of 10, where you tell 10 people something, and they tell 10 people, and so on, until hundreds or thousands of people know this thing? This is something I heard when I embarked on telling my story of living in rural Australia many years ago, and something I have in the back of my mind all the time. One thing I ponder about often is how are we portraying our rural communities and farmers? We are in charge of telling our own story, so what should it look like? It's certainly not all pretty, but it's certainly not all ugly either. But it's our story, and it's up to us to tell it. Because God knows there's enough people out there wanting to tell the story they made up or heard about us. As farmers, we do really well at sharing where we've been wronged by the government, media, or the general public, but we're really bad at sharing the normal everyday stuff, and especially the good stuff, or the not quite so horrific stuff. I get really worried about the picture that we are painting about ourselves. We focus too much on one side of the story, and I absolutely know that when all shit, excuse my language, is going wrong, that it's hard to feel differently, and my biggest love goes out to you when you're in that position. I know I've unfollowed certain people and rural commentators because every day it's how the government or someone else has done us wrong and nothing else, and then everyone shares that story over and over again. And as important as that is, it's not our whole story. We can't let it be our whole story. And the constant negativity, gloom and doom was not good for my head. So, yeah, and there are like Facebook pages out there that I've unfollowed. And I remember I had, there's a big flock of galahs flying over, and I don't know if you just can hear them, but they're screeching pretty loud. Anyway, we had there's a couple of hawks chasing them, that's why. Sorry, I told you I'd get distracted quite easily. Anyway, there was this Facebook page, and they had quite a large following, much larger than what I have. So on Life on Red Hill, which is my Facebook page, which I don't think I introduced properly before, I have about 8,000 followers. And this other page in question has something like 20,000 followers. And he said to me that because I didn't have so many followers as him, he was better than what I was. Like, who was I to talk about sharing farmers' stories and talking about farming in the media because I didn't have the same amount of followers as what he did? But I had to unfollow them because every single day, and it was several posts a day, not just one, it was just all the bad things that people were saying about farmers over and over again. And this page was getting stuck into the negativity bias, and so were all its followers. So it was just like this big whirlpool of negativity going round and round and round, and it just got so much traction, but there was never any of the good stuff coming through. And another example I've got from this is right back when we bought Red Hill in 2018. We were really stretched, like most young couples are when they step out and buy their first station. Like it wasn't easy. It was quite tough. Our finances were very tight, and because we were stepping out and buying something, there was a lot of work to be done on Red Hill, particularly around the water infrastructure. Now, we run our cattle in one big mob. We do rotational grazing, a little bit of holistic management. We'd love to be a little bit more high density, but just fencing up and putting that many watering points is quite difficult. So when we got to Red Hill in 2018, a lot of the dams were still open dams, and they didn't have any water infrastructure on them. So, and some of them were quite boggy, and we felt that cattle bogging unnecessarily in dams did not sit well with our values, with animal welfare at all. And we felt that there was things that we could do, but we were just going to have to work really hard to do it. So what we did, because, our cattle are only ever in one or maybe two paddocks, depending how many weaners we've got running at the time, we've actually got a lot of paddocks sitting vacant. So we've got a lot of watering points sitting vacant. So we felt we didn't need to invest at that time in lots of water infrastructure such as tanks and troughs. So what we did is, as we shifted the cattle around our paddocks, is we put we carted the water infrastructure around with us. So we put tanks and troughs up onto trucks, up onto vehicles, and just took them from water to water. And then we would fence the boggy dams off with temporary fencing. Now, fast forward 5 years later, we've got nearly pretty much permanent infrastructure on every dam, and the boggy ones are now either dug out, so they're no longer boggy, or they are fenced off with permanent fencing. The only water infrastructure we take around these days is we've got solar pumps on trailers, because they're easy enough to move, and we didn't want to invest, $5,000 or whatever it is on all these dams, pumps on all these dams that don't get used. But anyway, going back to it, so this is what we did, and we did it for probably a good 8 months after we got here. And I posted about this on Life on Red Hill, and it got very little traction. People didn't want to talk about the good things. That very same time was when New South Wales was going through that awfully horrendous drought. And there was another post going around on Facebook at the same time, and it was a sheep farmer from somewhere in New South Wales. And I tried to go back through, I remember some of my friends who shared it, but I couldn't find it, and maybe it got taken down. I was trying to find this post for you to actually show you. It was a perfect example of negativity bias. But this farmer posted up this photo of all these sheep bogged in the dam, and all these carcasses, like muddy, rotten carcasses, lying around the dam, with something along the lines of, the government needs to help our farmers. I am losing, and I cannot remember what the number, but it was at least 50 sheep a week in this one dam. And I remember seeing that post had been shared something like 3,000 times in the first couple of days. And that is a perfect example, coupled with this example of mine, of us doing everything we could do to stop our cattle being bogged, of how we get caught up in the negativity bias, and how we as farmers look at these posts and we go, we've got to share this because we need help. But we're actually doing our image really, really bad. And it's okay to share that occasionally, because it happens. I know it happens. But why are we so focused on the negatives and then get so upset when people think that farmers are cruel to their animals or hopeless land managers? Do you see where I'm coming from and what I mean? So as farmers, we get really caught up in sharing those negative things, and we don't share the positive things at all. And it's something like we just saw from Johann Hari, it is something that is ingrained in us from babies. But we really need to be conscious of this, because we are portraying ourselves. Nobody else is doing this for us. We are doing it ourselves, portraying us in a really, really bad light. And there's a lot of things that we can do differently. So if you're going to go out in the foray of the social media, you need to start thinking about who is your audience. Who are you directing it? And this comes back again to, I was talking about that page before that focused a lot on the negatives, and he had a lot more followers than me, so I felt he was a much better social media guru, which is fine. Maybe he is, maybe I'm completely wrong, but I'm just telling you my perception of it and how I feel. So going back to MLA's cool research on consumer habits. Now, this little graph excited me when I saw it because it just put things in such perspective. There is little disagreement about about the positive contributions towards society, and this is about the beef and lamb industry. So the question was, down here, you can see down the bottom, please indicate how much you agree or disagree with the following statement. So yeah, Australian cattle farmers make a positive contribution to society. Australian sheep farmers make a positive contribution to society. Now, this is where I get really excited when I look at this. So in the dark green here, we've got strongly agree. So a lot of this is probably our farmers and a lot of people in rural communities, or people that know quite a bit about the industry. And this is also going back to that slide we had before. Pretty sure we had it before, and I'm not jumping ahead, about half people wanted to know more, and some already thought they knew about the industry. So these dark green people, they already agree with us, and this is like that guy I was talking about with his 21,000 followers. Most of his followers sat in this dark green, so he wasn't cutting through. He was preaching to the converted. He wasn't, your quantity of your followers and the people that engage with you does not indicate the quality or the cut through or the engagement that you have. So what's really interesting is that 46 and 45% of people here agree that there is that the red meat industry has a positive contribution to society. So these guys are really, really important. So engaging with these guys is really important because we don't want them to slip. So these guys, they eat red meat. They want to know more. They're really engaged. They're really supportive. So they're going to come and meet us. These guys in the grey are also really important because they could go either way. So 1 and 3 are on the fence, presenting an opportunity to shift perceptions. So we don't want to lose these guys. We have to talk to them. We have to engage with them. We do not want to alienate them. And just from watching other people and how people, and it's not just even farmers, it's, you go down any contentious topic, you look at how people, whether it be vaccinations or climate change, when people walk into a room, whether it be a virtual room or whatever, and they say, I'm going to educate you on my point of view. How does that make you feel if someone says that to you? They're going to educate you and make you, bash you down into agreement. Straight away, your hackles go up and you just go, oh, I'm not even going to talk to you. Like you shut down immediately. And I see this happening a lot when farmers are going to go educate and close the divide and do this. Instead of going in like that, go in with a much softer approach. Go in and say, hey, let's have a conversation. I want to talk to you. Ask me any questions. So if you go in with that much softer, approachable approach, sorry, that was all not worded so well, you're going to take the guard down of people straight away, and they're going to be much more relaxed and much more comfortable and much more receptive. So if you look at this 6 and 3% on both, so that's not even 10%, disagree or strongly agree. These guys are welcome 100% to their views. They're welcome to, if they want to be vegans or whatever, but really you're not going to change their minds. You may have a little bit of a win here with the 6%, but quite honestly, they're 6%. So if you want to bang on all the time about vegans and animal rights activists and how they're wrong and how, you really focus on the negative of those guys, you're going to start losing these guys because they don't want to get involved in the conflict. So you have to walk away from that conflict. You have to walk away from that negativity bias, and you have to be a little bit more engaging and a little bit more positive and upbeat, and just be yourselves. Like, you don't have to. One thing I always used to say many, many years ago is, don't get so caught up in discrediting the radicals that you become a radical yourself. And that's what a lot of people turn into, because they're all, yeah, you're wrong, this person's wrong. You actually become quite a radical yourself, and you might look like you're getting a lot of traction, but you're only engaging in the 3 or the 6% or up here in the 13%, and you're totally ignoring these guys in the middle, who are the ones that you need to engage with the most. I hope this is all making sense, because it makes much more sense when I can sit in a room and talk to people, but I am open for questions and that later, which I'll show you how to get in contact if you need to. So yeah, when you're talking about stuff, just remember who you're talking to. Are you wanting to talk to other farmers and preach to the converted, or do you want to bang your head against a brick wall and talk to these guys down here? So finding your values and your style. And my computer just beeped, so I'm hoping it's not shutting down and not going to record anymore. I don't think so. So going back to my video, what values could you pick up on my video? So I'm hoping they shone through and you guys can pick them up and could see where I'm coming from. And this is in no particular order, but my values very strongly sit with my family. And that's just not just my immediate family, like my kids and that. My family is also my community. So rural communities, I care very deeply about. But a lot of what I talk about is my family, and not everybody is comfortable putting their family on social media, and I 100% agree. If you're not comfortable, don't do it, but there are other things, you can talk about. But one of the things why I talk about my family a lot is, I found in the live export suspension is that a lot of the people who were confused about the industry, when you spoke about it as an industry, they just shut down, because it was big industry, big dollars. But when you spoke about the families and the real life people in the industry that made up the live export industry, that actually got people to soften and actually realize that there was everyday families all caught up in it. And this is what happens, with farming. We are farming families, and it is a very family orientated occupation. So it just, it puts us on that level playing field. And that was also like another thing I found when talking to, via social media, talking to people who were concerned about the red meat industry, particularly because, and I don't have the research shown on here anywhere, but it's pretty common knowledge that women in their 30s to 50s are the main shoppers in Australia. We do a lot of the shopping for our household, or we do a lot of the meal preparation. So they actually can sway a lot of red meat consumption and sway how their family feels about red meat. And I had one woman post on, I think it was a Woolworths Facebook page, and I saw it, and she said something about shame on Woolworths, one particular location, for removing an organic range of beef, because shame, because organic supported animal welfare and human health and the environment much better than just your conventional non-organic beef. So I actually jumped on there and I said to her, "Hi Rachel, my name is Kylie, and just like you, I have a family. I'm also a beef producer in North Queensland, but I'm not organic." And I went through and listed why at that stage I wasn't organic, and I'm still not organic, and I do not have a problem with organic farmers. Like I said, we all march to the beat of our own drum and do what is best for our own values and for our own landscape. Anyway, and I said to Rachel, but because I'm not an organic farmer, and I listed why, I also went through and listed the things that we did to ensure the welfare of our animals, as well as the safety of our product, withholding periods. And she came back and she said, wow, that's really, really interesting. And she said, I actually feel much better. And I don't want her to go and stop buying organic beef, but I also don't want her to think that non-organic beef in Australia can be really, really bad either. That, that we all have our own pros and cons. And we do. In Australia, all our farming systems have their positives and negatives. So that's why one of my values and one of my styles is talking about family and what we do as a family on our stations. So one of my other big priorities, and anyone who has followed life on Red Hill knows that the regeneration of our landscape has been really, really important to us, and it has been a phenomenal story, well, I feel, to follow. I'm a bit of a plant nerd. I love my plants, and I love the story that they can tell us about our environment. So I am often talking about, I find a different plant and how I get excited that, I found this new plant and this means this, this, and this in my environment. So this picture I've got up here is lots and lots of kangaroo grass, which is, most of you will know that it is such a huge, iconic native pasture across the whole country, but it's very vulnerable to overgrazing. And on Red Hill, we have seen our kangaroo grass population go from a few tussocks to just acres and acres of it, and it just excites me very much. Animal welfare is obviously a huge priority to us, so I do talk a lot about what we do with our animals. We look after our potties, we try everything we do not to get potties, but occasionally we do get our little orphan calves. And another one of our styles is taking the mickey out of ourselves and each other. So a lot of you, if you do follow Life on Red Hill, you know that I call my husband Shane the big fella, because he's quite tall, he's quite a big man, and it's just these little nicknames. And if you've been following us long enough, that you'll know that pretty much every wet season the big fella gets bogged somewhere, although this bogging wasn't him, it was our son Clancy got bogged in the loader. But I often talk about trying to catch potties, or the things that go wrong, and I really try and put a funny slant to it, because if you don't laugh you cry. And obviously I can't do that with everything. Like, I have put posts where I have just sat out in the paddock with my favorite heifer's head in my lap as she died from 3-day, because there was absolutely nothing I could do from her. So I do talk about the bad things and don't laugh about them, but just these little things that go wrong, like the getting bogged or the arguments we have trying to run a potty calf down in a buggy and I'm screaming to let me out. I talk about a lot of this, and this puts the human touch on it, and it makes it a little bit interesting, and it makes it a little bit funny. And I think it really helps too with a lot of other farming wives and a lot of other farming families to go, oh my God, we are not alone. Because we do live in a really isolated part of the world, and we don't talk to each other quite as much as what we should. And, and I'm well aware that a lot of women do look up to me, and I hope that doesn't sound snobby at all, but I don't want people to think I'm this huge, amazing person that's just got everything right all the time. Like, I have been known to show photos of me just chucking clothes on the clothesline with no pegs and just piling them up and putting just pulling the clean ones off and putting them on the floor underneath the clothesline, because we don't have it together 100% of the time. And I really want people to know that we're real, because real people are much more, I suppose, influential, and we're not someone special. We're not this amazing people that do amazing things all of the time. We're just real people. So that's a lot of my value, and that's a lot of my style, and that comes through a lot on Life on Red Hill, and that's what's worked for me. It might not work well for everyone, but this is what's worked well for me. So going through a lot of the other pages and I'll show you a bit on Life on Red Hill, and you'll just notice that there is some, oh no, it's not going to work. Hang on 2 seconds. Pause. Right, well, I've just had a technical mishap here, and this isn't going the way I wanted it to go, because I'm recording this on PowerPoint and it won't take me out of PowerPoint to show you stuff on Facebook. So I'm just going to talk you through it, and you can go and have a look at these pages, or even if as I'm talking you go and find these pages on Facebook and you can have a scroll through, and I'm hoping I remember it all right and I don't get too confused. But anyway, so if you're a Facebooker, and like I said, there's lots of others, there's people on TikTok, there's people on Instagram, but as I said, I prefer Facebook, so this is what I'm talking about it. If you go into Facebook and type in Life on Red Hill in the search bar, and that should come up with our page. And as you scroll through, you will see a lot of what I talk about. So, and I'm just trying to remember on that. Actually, let me get my phone, which I've hidden around here so that I can't see the text coming through going, can I buy this tractor? Not that he would ask me, he would just probably do it. Okay, so let me go. Life on Red Hill. Sorry, I'm not so good at this technical stuff. So, come on. Now it's telling me my time limit is up because I try and only spend an hour a day on Facebook. So, Life on Red Hill. Hopefully you've had better luck. So if you scroll through, now it's not going to load. I've got to get through all the admin stuff. Coming. There you go. You will see, as you go scroll through all of Life on Red Hill, you'll see that I speak a lot about my values and my style, and my priorities. So it's animal welfare. There is cute puppy photos, cute calf photos. There's lots of plant photos because I love my plants. I love my dogs. My kids probably think I love my dogs. It depends how soon you're watching this, but last week I was home alone and a heifer decided to fall over in a trough and I had to get it out. So it looks like a horrible photo, but actually, if you are scrolling, if you look on the 9th of June 2023, this is such a good example of negativity bias, because if you look at this photo, I have a heifer that's stuck in the trough. She is still alive, but in the background, there's another 5 weaners just standing there staring, just going, what's happening to you? And I bet you they all share that on social media too. Yeah, so you scroll through my page, like Life on Red Hill, and you'll just see how those values and those priorities in my style comes through. So I have nicknames for my husband, like he's the big fella. My dogs have nicknames. A lot of our vehicles have nicknames, and even things like we have a area on our place called Tomato Gully. So it's a big gully. It's right on the banks of the Burdekin River, and it is the most eerie place I have ever been to. Like, it's full of rubber vine, and it's this huge gully with huge banks, and it's overgrown, and it's full of pigs, and it's full of dingoes, and I swear to God we get bogged in there at least once a year, whether it's a dry bog or a mud bog, and we just try and avoid it a lot. And when I talk about Tomato Gully on Life on Red Hill, it's always, I always talk about Tomato Gully. I type Tomato Gully, and then in brackets I go bum bum bum, and everyone knows what I'm talking about. So it's just these funny little take the mickey, because oh my God, Tomato Gully is like a hellhole of a place. Anyway, we'll go on to the next one. This is one of my favorite Facebook pages, and as I've been going through all these pages, I actually realized that I'm not sharing what they're doing, what they do. I don't share their posts, and I need to do that more so that, that we aren't getting caught up in this negativity bias and we're supporting. So Hillbilly Heaven, home of Hillbilly Hogs and Cats Creations. So these guys are up on the Atherton Tablelands and they raise pigs. And Kathy is a little bit naughty and quite funny, and so they have their pasture-raised pigs. They're organic, and they sell them. They're paddock to plate operation. Plus, Kath also does cool things like make soap and lots of cool little things. And if you scroll through, you will see Kath's got some really good taglines, like "Not here to be average" or "I'd smoke that." And like I said, it's a little bit funny. All her branding is on point. Like everything, you see a Hillbilly Heaven post and it's Hillbilly Heaven because of the colors, the logos. And I hope you're sitting here scrolling through it all and you'll see what I mean. And it's so informative. Like, Kathy's done such a great job of making things informative and funny. And she's also selling a product. But I've never once seen Kathy bag out anyone else who's not organic or who does things differently. And that's really important because we don't want to cause bigger division. She just talks about what she does and she does it well. And this is her, and take it or leave it. And I just think it's got such a great, it's just got such a great feel about the page, and she does a great job. Another one I really like, and there's lots out there that I really like, but I didn't want to overwhelm you all today. And I hope to goodness this is recording, because it doesn't look like it's recording. Oh well, we will see. If not, I will just make two and jam them together. Sorry. If there's lots out there that are doing a great job, so please don't be offended if you're not on the list. These were just actually the ones that I thought of straight away. So the other one is Bull Dust and Mulga, sheep and cattle station down in southwest Queensland. And Wendy's probably similar to what I do, except she's a much better photographer. And she just talks a lot about what they do. And I've actually gotten some really great ideas about little things that they do on their station that I could do on ours. And she talks a lot about the natural environment and the animal welfare and raising a family in the bush. So another one is Pilbara Working Dogs. And Tish comes from the Pilbara, obviously, in Western Australia, a very harsh area. And she speaks a lot about using her dogs on cattle, but intertwined among all these really cool videos of amazing dogs and amazing landscapes, Tish just interweaves all this information about land management, how the dogs come into play with land management and animal welfare, and the things they're doing to change their operation to make it more sustainable and more, deal with these harsh environment a lot better. And it's just always great. And she's got the same style of, like, her dogs are like people, and they think things about their human, and I can totally relate to that. And so could anyone that lived in a city that owned a dog. They would totally relate to that. So it's still saying it's recording, but it doesn't look like it's recording, so I hope it is. And the last one I had is Bunchgrass Wild Graze Beef. Now, these guys are actually Canadian, and I visited their ranch in Canada in 2018, just after we bought Red Hill, and they're an amazing family, the Haywood family. And a lot of the stuff that they talk about there is just grazing their cattle in the rangelands of Canada, and it's beautiful photography. It's just something totally different to what we're used to looking at. So I really enjoy looking at it, and it's the same thing. It's just telling a story about what they do and not what everyone else does, or what they should be doing or what they shouldn't be doing. It's just that really personal insight to what they do, and to me that's really important. So we're nearly coming to the end here. Oh, and it's telling me it's recording now, so I really hope it has, and I don't have to do this all over again. Technology. Anyway, what you can do. So not everyone has to go out and make a social media platform, to make a page, to share everything. That's not everyone's style, and not everyone has the time or the inclination to do that. And that is 100% okay. If you don't want to do it and you don't want to do it well, then that's fine. Don't do it. But you can leverage stuff off others, or even on your own private page. You actually, when you think about your friends list, you will have those cousins or those old school friends that you might not have seen for 20 years, but they live a totally different life to you, and you're reaching those people, and they will trust you because they know you already. They already have that connection with you. So what you share on your own personal profile for your friends to see can actually have a really big a really big influence as well. So you really need to be mindful of that. So some little things that you can do is just be aware of that negativity bias. So don't get drawn into the negativity too often. So I have some friends who I absolutely adore. I think they're the bee's knees. I love looking at their kids. But if you scroll through their personal feed, there's probably 2/3 is sharing a negative article that somebody else has shared about farmers. So they're really getting drawn into that negativity bias, whereas they've got all these beautiful photos of the stuff that they're doing on their farm, but they get drowned out by that negativity bias. So we're only human. We're all going to do it, but just be really aware that you're not just constantly sharing the negative. Make sure you're sharing the positives. And I've got this over here as well, like share the positives from other people. For every negative story you share, make sure you share 10 positives. And if you're aware of that negativity bias and you're aware of the positive stuff, you're really going to make a difference, I think. You're going to change one person's perception, and that matters because you go back to your circle of 10 and that one person goes, oh, well, my mate Kylie just shared this and I really trust her. I went to school with her. She was a nice girl. I hope they all say that about me. But anyway, yeah, did you see where I'm coming from? That you don't have to go out there and make this huge social media persona or anything, but there's little tiny things you can do, and you can use the work of other people. And getting caught in the negativity bias is only human. We saw that when Johan Hari was talking, like a baby will stare at an angry face a lot longer than a smiley face. But we need to be aware of this, and once we're aware of it, we can be conscious of it and don't get drawn into it. So I've kind of gone through and spoken a lot about all these 3 things, like just even on your private social media, just talk about stuff. And I see a lot of my friends do it. They do talk about it, and that has such an amazing impact. And it's also really great for all of us to see. Like, I love seeing other people's cattle and what they're doing there. It gives me a lot of ideas, gives me a lot of hope, that I am on the right track. So you might not think you're doing a lot, but you are. And I'm getting tongue-tied here. Just excuse me, I'll take a breath. So even, you can just share the stuff. So those of us that are out there doing a lot of the positive stuff, just share our stuff if you want. And I'm not doing that to get traction and likes and all that. Like, I'm not a like whore, I don't think. But they're just little things that you can do, and they make such a big difference. And the other thing that happens when you're sharing from our pages, you're actually driving our traffic up. If you share and if you comment, that actually changes those algorithms and bumps it up a bit. So that's really, really important for beating that negativity bias that our social media algorithms operate on. So just really have that in the back of your mind all the time. Like, if you share and comment on something negative, you are just 100% driving traffic back to that over and over and over again. So if you want your traffic to go anywhere, make sure it's going to something that you want everyone to know about. Now, I think that is it. I hope I didn't have too many glitches in the middle. I'm almost afraid to go back and watch, but I probably should be professional and do so. And I just hope you're all here still watching and it's been okay. It's not, like I said, it's not my style. I can talk underwater, as you've probably noticed, but it's a bit hard when I can't see people's faces and know if you're disengaged. But I suppose the good thing about this is that you can skip the bits. So hopefully it's all made sense. Anyway, I would like to say a very big thank you, and I think my video camera down the bottom is blocking the logo. Let me just do that. How's that? So I'd like to thank NQ Dry Tropics for giving me this opportunity to talk to you guys about cultivating connections and building those meaningful connections and why we should. And if you've got any questions, contact Peter. We've got his email address here and his mobile. And if you've got any questions to me directly as well, feel free to jump on Life on Red Hill on Facebook and shoot me a message, and I'd be more than happy to talk to you. Okay, thanks guys. Bye.